In the last segment, it was pointed out to us by none other than Matty T that today is the 2-year anniversary of the cutting of the cord with Chad Morris and the football program by athletic director Hunter Yurachek. And I don't remember what the line was when Arkansas went into LSU that week, but what was it, like 42, 45 points? They were an underdog. Now they're favored 2 years later in Baton Rouge. I don't know anybody that could have expected that would have been the case in just 2 years.
Well, it's all about head coaches, isn't it? I mean,
feels like
it. Well, it always is. I mean, it's it's the players, but the head coach has to pull it all together. I mean, you can have the right head coach and don't have the players, and it can be, it can not work out. I can point out through history where Arkansas's had good coaches and they ran out of players, and it was tough sledding for a little while. But usually, the good coaches find the good players. Yeah. But I mean, it's I never thought it was going to work with Ed Orgeron, and I was absolutely stunned the year that they rolled through it. But it's kind of funny. Sometimes I look for perspective from people that are smarter than me. I talked to Fitz Hill today about Louisiana, and he recruited Louisiana for Arkansas and did really well. Go down the list of players that he pulled from that state across, I-20 across North Louisiana. I mean, it was really good to Arkansas for a number of years. And he says LSU always has talented players. When they have a quarterback, look out.
See, now there's another juxtaposition between 2 years ago Arkansas and 2 years ago LSU. The Razorbacks right now, you got to feel really confident about the way KJ Jefferson plays. 3 times in the last calendar year, he has taken you down the field on the last drive and scored when you've needed it. That's really tough to do. And now it's LSU that doesn't know who they are going to play at quarterback, and so we're going to see 2 quarterbacks from the Tigers on Saturday, and Max Johnson and Garrett Nussmeier. I mean, so right there is totally flip-flopped from the way it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, and then over the last 2 years where they've really struggled, you can add in T.J. Finley, and there might be another one in there, I can't remember. But it's, they've gone through them. And, there's other parts to the puzzle. There's other pieces. I mean, it's experience and this and that. And, I look at their running backs, and I don't see a Fournette or a Falk, or, you can go through the list. And, Arkansas looks to, like they might be a little better at running back than LSU. And there's some other areas of the team. But, I mean, it's about, who gets the most consistent effort, what head coach, and I was really enjoyed watching the interview with Treylon Burks after the game. I watched the game with my own eyes and see the replays, and then the next day I'll come back and just watch the whole thing, and seeing Burks talking about playing for these coaches. Yeah, that's a big deal, guys. It's a big deal. And y'all played that George Strait song coming in about I hate everything. Well, there's sometimes the players, they hated everything.
Well, and if you're going to tune out.
The Morris era with their assistant coaches, those players hated everything about what was going on, and they played for themselves some, and every once in a while you would see a spectacular moment, but they didn't play for the coaches. They didn't play for the school. There was all kinds of, disconnects. But I think you could play that song, I Hate Everything. That would have worked for Arkansas, and I bet it works at LSU for part of the time this year. They came together for that Alabama game, and it went all right, and so they kind of held the rope.
Yeah, LSU seems to have something they are actually playing for. With the close loss to Alabama, they did beat Florida about a month ago, a game that at the time nobody thought that they really had a shot at. And you've obviously been to Baton Rouge and Death Valley multiple times, and LSU fans, especially under the bright lights at Death Valley, are historically known to be very hostile to opposing teams, anyone associated. What is the best or worst, whichever way you look at it, fan interaction with LSU that you've either personally had or you've seen?
Well, I'm going to give you several if we got enough time. We may have to go into the next segment because there's multiple great stories. One is from it's the Matt Jones, Clark Moyer. Clark told me that they're in the bus coming into the stadium, and the fans are lined up in the little narrow alleyway for them to get to the back of the stadium where they go in, and there's all these people lined up, and they're shaking the bus and throwing things at the bus, and there's hogs on a stick, that they're grilling, and there's a grandmother holding a baby. The baby's about 1. And the grandmother's got the baby's hand formed into a middle finger gesture.
That is great.
I mean, that's and the baby is just smiling, So it's like, hey, that they get their message across. I'm early on, my family was in the stands for an Arkansas game. This would have been, 92. 93, somewhere around there, and Arkansas had 3 backs go over 100 yards. It was, I guess it was the second year. Barry Lunny ran the option, and everybody made 100 yards, and Arkansas rolled it up. I think it was, Curly Hallman's, end of the era type deal, and my family had seats through an arrangement that I made through somebody at LSU in the LSU section, which would never do it again. And they're calling the Hawgs, the 3 of them, my wife and 12-year-old and a 14-year-old. And beer came from 4 different directions in the fourth quarter on them. They were doused. And a real nice man turned around, and they handed them that was back in the days where you could get a little tail of a tiger that you put on your gas tank. I think Exxon or somebody was doing that. And they handed it. They tried to, we're so sorry. For every bad or crazy drunk LSU fan, there's 2 or 3 more that are just awesome, that they'll invite you to their tailgate and give you gumbo and something really good to eat and something really good to drink. And so they're not, you can't
lump them all together,
paint them all with one brush. Yeah,
and after they give you something
great.
After they give you something good to drink, Clay, they're going to give you something good to drink, and then they're going to give you something good to drink, and they're going to keep coming.
Oh no!
They just don't stop.
No! Yeah, and I will say, walking up through the stands after the game, to get from the locker room or the interview room, you go across the field and you go up about 20 rows of the stands and through, an entrance, and then back to the elevator. So that's the way. So you're going through the stands. To see the Purple Crown Royal little sacks, I mean, it's just like that. Do they drink something else besides Crown Royal, or is it just because of those Purple Crown Royal little sacks that they, bring their stuff? But I mean, I've never seen that in any other stadium where it's just empty Crown bottles everywhere.
It's so funny too, and we'll take the break here. Before I ever stepped into the South, I didn't really know much about liquor, right? So my first experience in the South was in North Carolina with a minor league baseball team, and I saw, all the adults are drinking Crown Royal. I thought the stuff was made in the South, for crying out loud. Here it is. It's Canadian whiskey. I didn't even know that at age 18.
Blended, yes. Yeah.
Now I know where it's made, and I know people that love to collect the stuff, too. And it is pretty tasty, I'll say that. Though I'm not going to have any before the game on Saturday. All right, if you get any questions for Clay, 877-377-6963 is the number to get with us. Keep the conversation on football with Arkansas taking on LSU on Saturday. And you know what? I have a sense, even though Alabama ran for only 6 yards, it felt a little bit fluky from this LSU defensive performance like that. I think the Hogs can run against them. I think they will, and we'll get into that next. All right, a couple of things I wanted to hit on here with Clay involving the Arkansas run game against LSU. And first thing is just you look at the performance against Mississippi State. A.J. Green did not play, or at least if he dressed, he didn't get a carry.
He played. They didn't give him the ball on that carry. He was a decoy. Yeah.
Traylon Smith was the top back up until the last game, and it looks like Dominique Johnson has taken over. And it's really nothing against Traylon Smith. I think he's a fine college running back. I think Dominique Johnson and Rocket Sanders are really intriguing weapons. They do multiple things, not just run the ball, and they run with speed, with size, and with power. I love this running. We love this running game from the start, but it looks right now that they've kind of found the guys that they want to drive the train.
Yeah, I think also it takes time for a freshman, and Dominic's not a freshman, but he hadn't played a lot, just to feel comfortable with all the nuances of the offense, the blocking, the checks, where they see things the same time as the quarterback and they're on the same page. And, Rocket played receiver in high school. There's some things you can do with him. AJ, I think he just got behind at the start of the year and, he had a concussion, missed a lot of time. When you're a freshman, August camp is really important because it's where all the installations are and things just come back to you quicker when there's things that they put in the August that you don't see till game 6 or 7. And how you remember all that, the recall is important. And, you never know from one week to the next. There might be a play that, like the Texas A&M game, the wheel route that they ran for him, that they knew they had a matchup with a linebacker, and boom, when they got it, it was a big play. So it's, I wouldn't forget about any of these guys. And Treylon, he still played in crunch time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, got some big fourth quarter carries.
Yeah,
that's right.
And what he is when he's fresh is still a dynamic back. But those others are, pass protections, big bodies. There's times where I worried he might get overwhelmed if he had to, all at once the way things shifted, and he's got to pick up a defensive end for a snap or something. You just don't know. And a 240 guy is better than a 190 guy in that situation.
Okay, so for as good as Mississippi State's rush defense was, Arkansas still ran for over 200 yards against them. Only one other team has done that, and that's Alabama against Mississippi State, the same team that LSU held to 6 yards this last weekend. But the 5 games before LSU's loss at Alabama, they had allowed an average of 202 yards per game to Mississippi State, Auburn, Kentucky, Florida, and Mississippi. The Hogs have run for 200 yards or more in 7 of 9 games. They can run against LSU, can't they?
Yeah, let's put it in perspective. And it's week to week, it's matchups, it's things change, personnel changes, and I'm talking about during the season. And I think if you look at where Arkansas was the week they played LSU with defensive linemen last year, LSU wasn't running the ball on people like they did Arkansas, but Arkansas didn't have any defensive linemen for that game. The guys that they played, that's what you did against them, right? And they played a 4-man front and just smothered them. And not a lot of big plays, but they could get 4 or 5 on almost every snap. So that's what they did. Alabama lost their top 2 centers last year. They lost their starting center this year, who is, is a first-year performer. This is his first year to be the center. In the first quarter with a sprained ankle, they moved their guard to center. He had not snapped a lot. So then they bring in their second guard. We had a discussion about offensive lines and what backups are like around the country. Nobody's got a second offensive line. And when you get a key injury, especially like no other position, center. And once that happened in that first quarter, LSU ran blitz and stunts through the A-gaps to maul that center and that guard. The center that played 3 quarters is a good guard, but he just snapping the ball and blocking. He hadn't played that position. Arkansas is in a better position with Ricky Stromberg than Alabama was last week. And so they just overwhelmed the center and guard throughout that game with blitzes, run blitzes. They got 4 sacks. I don't think it's going to be like, it's just a different matchup one week from the next. And Alabama probably get that guy back. I think it's an ankle injury, which he'll probably, 2 weeks from now, he'll be great against Arkansas. It'll be a whole different situation.
Yeah, it is a different matchup every single week. Each team brings different looks and different schemes, and it's just going to be how well you can combat that.
It changes from the first quarter to the fourth quarter based on injuries. All at once Arkansas is short on cornerbacks at the end of the Missouri game last year, and they were a little bit the other night. They don't like putting Hudson Clark in man-to-man. And, people that want them to blitz, it's like, okay, look out there and see who you got. Who's playing what position, what they're going to have to do against a top SEC receiver for, 10 snaps if you're going to blitz 10 times. And I watched a little bit of Wake Forest against North Carolina. What was 58-55 or something like that? Wake Forest was down to like their 5th or 6th cornerback in that game. They wouldn't, any way they were going to stop North Carolina. And so that's what happens in college football. You get, last year it was COVID. This year, it's just like you get a couple of injuries at the same position and you don't have the depth.
Yeah, and Clay, I know you're going to break it down and make your official, unofficial pick on these airways on Friday on the Morning Rush. But 3 weeks left in the season. LSU's all 3 games are at home, 4-5. Do they get to bowl eligibility?
Does Arkansas?
Does LSU?
Oh, I don't know if I hadn't even thought of that. That is, if they do they go play? I mean, who coaches them? I mean, I don't know. They've got a non-conference game left, so you think they have a shot at it.
Yeah. It's ULM.
Yeah, and it's but that's not. I mean, you just don't know how. From one week to the next, you don't know what you're going to get from LSU, and it's so important to have a good start against them. Don't give them hope because they got some good players. Don't know who's going to play at quarterback and how that's going to go down. If they played Nussmeier, and he's hasn't thrown a lot of passes, does he throw some to to Arkansas? I mean, it just that's but hey, they're capable of being bowl eligible, but I would never want to pick what LSU's going to do for this November with Ed may just suddenly decide he don't want to coach anymore. And then you have to decide, does that help them or hurt them? You don't know.
And their last game of the season is going to be fascinating because it's against A&M, and with all that Jimbo said, what was that, 2-3 weeks ago, about how he loves his ranch and he loves College Station and all of that, it still hasn't quashed the rumors.
No.
There's more coming out that Scott Woodward has identified Jimbo Fisher as the number 1 candidate. They're going to come after him hard, Clay.
It's in Baton Rouge. Does he just stay there after the game?
Boy, it is crazy. Yeah, and it's the money is so insane, and everybody says, well, there's you can't keep adding to it. Well, the SEC deals that are coming forward with ESPN and the expansion
adds more money.
It's just going to be more they can spend for football. It's like, okay, another $15 million. Well, you just give it to Jimbo, right? It's
exactly right.
Jimbo, what you write the terms, we'll sign it. And we don't. It's a blank check. And I mean, where would you rather be, College Station or Baton Rouge? I'm gonna say College Station, but I don't really know. He knows. He's been in both places.
Well, and I guess he has said he really loves Baton Rouge and all that. It's just there's so many different signals to try to follow that it's almost impossible. But I guess at the end of the day, it's money and length of contract. He's got that.
We're back and better than ever. A new web interface to start the basketball season and more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number 1 spot for all basketball and football action this season. Head to the new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BELIEVE50 to receive your bonus. That's BLEAV 50 to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, and baseball postseason, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts.